What is up, everyone out there in this universe of power? This is Titan Talk, brought to you by me, your host, Gabe. Some people know me as the Texas Titan, and I am here in American Fork, Utah, with my good friend, fellow World's Strongest Man competitor, and multiple world record holder, Kevin Ferris. Kevin, how you doing, brother?
Pretty good, man. Feeling really good. Tough week of training.
Tough week of training, but the toughness of our training is exactly why I made the trip all the way out here. I mean, I've traveled a little over 1,500 miles to get here to train with you today, or to train with you over these past few days. I mean, we have the ever-looming pressure of 2022 World's Strongest Man just right around the corner. How many days out are we now?
I think it's 24.
24 days out, well within a month, well within range of going against 29, 28, if not including us two, of the world's strongest and best strongmen.
Yep.
How do you feel about that? I mean, that reality setting in that we've got it coming.
You know, out of all the sports I've played, strongman's that sport that I haven't worried about nerves. You know, it's something that I've put in a lot of training. I've put in a lot of, it's just consistent. I feel really confident. So I think that carries on as far as like nerves. I mean, there's a little bit of nerves here and there, obviously before the whistle blows. But yeah, I don't really have the nerves leading up to things. Like obviously the training and everything else is going to really show everything. So if I do have nerves, I know I didn't train hard enough. Well,
that's exactly it. It's one of those things where if you go through the motions enough over and over again, you've really solidified the confidence in your own ability. And I strongly feel like our confidence is the biggest weapon we have in our arsenal when it comes down to competition day.
Absolutely. And you know, I've been on 2 other podcasts, and the 3 things that I go off of, because really if you don't have them, then it's going to be a hard, long road for you. But staying consistent, staying confident, and staying humble. You know, just those 3 things that I've followed out through my entire career for the last 7 years, and it's worked. So.
And for anyone who hasn't followed your journey, I know some people tend to call you a dark horse just because you're not one of the most loud-spoken guys on social media, but you are one of the guys who lets your track record, your lifts, your competitions do the talking for you. And for people who haven't followed your journey, I strongly encourage them to go check out the Shaw Strength podcast you recently did with Brian, where you guys really went into full depth of your story from the beginnings up until now. It was a great episode. I really love listening to it. Lots of insight for everyone. But you touched on that episode the mental fortitude aspects of how to tune out a lot of the noise that comes from the external sources and really just hone in on the job at hand, on executing, you know, the tasks, pushing your abilities to the fullest. I feel like you're a really strong character in terms of knowing how to turn that switch on and off.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, I'm coming into this whole thing, coming into this sport, I was genetically just strong, you know. But you've got to have that. You got to have that mental, you know, that mental toughness as well, because that's really what's going to carry you. You know, is if you can really tune into that and really tune into, because obviously you got to be strong, but to have the mental capability to break through when people are whispering in your ear, oh, that's impossible, you can't do that, or, you know, just
that type of stuff just adds more fuel to the fire.
It really does.
I know it works that way with you too, and that's why I find a kindred spirit in yourself, because it just builds and builds, and we like proving the naysayers wrong.
Well, obviously, yeah, you know, I'm one of the smaller guys, especially for the last 4 years. I've been one of the, am still the smallest guy at World's Strongest Man. So, you know, I always still have those naysayers like, why is this guy here?
Hold on. You say the smallest guy, and you're just saying that in terms of weight, because you're not the smallest guy. You've got one of the biggest backs in strongman that I've seen. And I know I like to joke about you fitting through doors and stuff like that, but you and I have touched base on this a lot too, that we both have a comfort zone in terms of where we feel best in our terms of operating with body weight, you know, because some of the other guys we go against, I mean, we go against guys who are well above 400 pounds. But the things that set us apart from them is our ability to keep moving, move fast, and articulate quickly when it comes time to switch from, like on carry medleys, or to pick up one object quickly after the other, or not get so gassed on those 60-second max reps. And talking to you about it before, you told me that, you know, you don't want to push too far past 300 pounds. I'm right along the same line. I feel like any incremental increase above 310, I really start getting slower. It gets harder to tie my shoes. It gets harder to recover between sets. I mean, how long has it taken you to find that comfort zone?
Well, it doesn't even matter if it's good weight or bad weight. It's still gonna, you know, kind of hinder me, because I was at the heaviest I've ever been was 295, and I mean I was feeling it everywhere. And it was only because I'm sitting around like 285, so it was only 10 pounds more. But even that 10 pounds more, I could feel it on my knees. I could feel it when I was breathing. I could feel it, you know, going to work and going up the stairs, or just your daily activities. You could feel that 10 pounds.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I weighed myself when we were training on Thursday for the first time that I haven't touched a scale forever, and I was at 300 pounds flat. And you're at 285 right now?
285, yeah.
So we may very well be two of the lightest guys going into this competition in Sacramento next month.
Yep.
Or this month. We're May 1st now, right?
May 1st, yeah. So.
Oh, man, the clock is ticking.
Leave the 20th and compete on the 23rd. So I guess, yeah, we are 23 days out.
3 weeks, brother. 3 weeks. But, you know, it was very important to me to kind of get out of my home gym, get out of my comfort zone, and come up to here to the mountains to train with my friend, because I know that when we're around each other, you know, we know exactly what it takes. We know the zones that we have to tap into to get these heavy things done. But training together really does bring out a different level of push.
Yep.
You know, you can't get that with anyone else other than who knows exactly what we're going to be doing.
Well, I don't feel like a lot of people, especially in other sports, they don't like to go out of their comfort zone and go and train with other guys that they compete with or compete against. You know, I feel like strongman's one of the. It's not like any other sport.
It's a diamond in the rough. I like to say a lot.
Well, because we all know what it takes to be where we are. We all know, and it's a tough road. And I feel like that brings us all together. You know, that's that brotherhood. Yeah, we are competing against each other, but we also know what it takes to be where we are as well. So training with each other, obviously we're pushing each other, but yeah.
I've always liked to reflect on that it's a phenomenon, like you said, about this sport that really makes it shine as a unique a feature that sets it apart from all the other sports. What exactly do you think it is, the core component of strongman, that makes it so different, that we welcome our toughest rivals with open arms?
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I enjoy it, man. I really enjoy it. There's not one person that I can't even say compete against. I compete with, because I like to see it as it's us against the weight. It's not, I mean, obviously you've got the point spread and, you know, you can play the game and stuff, but it's us against the weight. It really is. I mean, if we can't lift it, then that's on us, you know? Yeah, I don't know what it is, but
I kind of tend to gravitate towards the acknowledgement of the sacrifice, because there is a certain amount of sacrifice that we have to put into this. The nature of what we do is breaking down our bodies by doing a task so that the internal changes make that task easier the next time. But when you're constantly in that loop of breaking yourself down, there is blood, there's sweat, there's guts, there's tears. I mean, the sacrifice is there. And when you're around a kindred spirit who understands that sacrifice, it's kind of like finding that long-lost brother that you didn't know you had.
Yep.
And it's a truly
blood
unique
brothers.
Blood brothers, indeed. And sometimes, especially when those bars are ripping up the shins, it's a very real statement, the blood brothers. But we've had some really good training over the past couple days. I know when I first got here, right up on the agenda was one of my weak points, the overhead press. We did some log press. We did some sandbag carries, really training our ability to articulate well when it comes time to do the carry medleys at Worlds. And I know we can talk about it now because they finally released the events, but we've got some pretty interesting events lined up at Worlds. I know for the overhead press, we do have a log. We're going to be doing a log, max reps in 60 seconds. Pretty substantial weight. What are we at right there? We're going to be doing about 350?
340, 350, yeah.
350, keeping that pedal down for the full 60 seconds. And I think that's one of those unique events where the lighter guys like us will have a moment to shine because we're able to keep that gas pedal down. Do you agree with that? Or
100%. I switching up coaches, I've really focused on more, endurance type stuff. So it's a lot of volume. It's a lot of, obviously it's built up to getting heavier and heavier and heavier, but a lot of volume, keeping that heart rate up because I know that's what's going to set us apart on a lot of these events. A lot of these events are like full blown. They're not, we really only have one max lift, and that's in the finals. Everything else it's going to be endurance. It's one after another, after another, after another. So
for people that aren't aware of this impending max lift in the finals, clue them in onto what it is.
It's an old lift. It was back. It actually showed up. I think 95 was the first time it showed up. It was the Flintstone lift, and it was a barbell with rocks on the side of it. And I think it was Gary Taylor. Was it Gary Taylor?
The name escapes me too, but I do remember the footage of just seeing how gnarly these stone plates looked on the side of that barbell. And then just, you get this feel of like how heavy that must be on the athletes, either the chest or the back. They gave us the option this year. Like we can either press it in front of the body or we can press it behind the neck.
And I think that goes into a safety factor as well because even me being, a lighter guy too, I was struggling to get it just set right on my neck, or behind my neck. It's a very technical, very form-oriented. It's got to be right on place, especially to press from the back. Obviously, I think that you're going to get bigger weight from the back. But I don't know. I guess we're going to see. We're going to see what happens.
I feel like having the option to do the behind-the-neck press, you are one of the strongest squatters I've ever seen. And that's impressive to say, talking to one of the guys who calls himself one of the lighter athletes. But there's been many times, whether it's me coming up to train with you, where you've out-squatted me on just a normal training day, or other times where I've seen you do some truly remarkable stuff. I'm thinking at the Shaw Classic last year, when we were at nearly 8,000 feet elevation on that Ford Bronco, the brand new Ford Bronco squat. You did 20 reps, right?
Yeah, 20 reps.
Dude, what the hell, man? That was equivalent to an 800-pound squat. And we were at altitude, and you banged out not just double digits, but 20 reps.
Yeah.
What do you credit that to?
Well, obviously endurance as well. But once I find that sweet spot, like squat's one of those things, like I've tried the monolift. I've tried to just, it's kind of what JF said. If you can't walk out with the weight, you have there's no reason why you should even be squatting the weight, So really stepping back and feeling that sweet spot, and I've found it. I've found where to tune in and how to get in that spot. But squats has always been just something that, even in high school, man, I
remember hearing on the Shaw Strength podcast before you even started Strongman, when you first went to go train with Van Hatfield, you said something crazy, like you had a 650 deadlift, pretty close to the same squat, and a super heavy bench. And that's before you even started Strongman. And you were, what, 220 at the time?
220, yeah. Gosh, not even 220. I think I was like probably, around 200.
Did your wrestling background give you that strong squat? I'm a deadlifter. So, deadlift, I'm impressed by your 650 deadlift, but squat doesn't come as easy to me as deadlift. So when I hear things like a 650 squat, or when I've seen you do the squats that you have,
I think it's all
remarkable.
leverage too, I think it's torso length. I think it just comes in, you're going to have good deadlifters that've got a longer arm base as well. Not necessarily, but I feel like it's leverage points as well. Yeah, squats has just been one of those things that just kind of click for me,
So are you going to be doing the behind the neck or in front of the neck?
Behind the neck. I think I've been doing some pause, quarter squat, pause, going into depth, coming back out of the hole to a pause. That's really strengthened my press, and it's helped with everything, because I used to use that same movement as an accessory because I couldn't connect my lower pop to my upper pop with like an overhead press or a log press or an axle press. So I threw that into, well, because that one lift, it's all form. So it's all, you're really not using any arm. You're only using arm when you're locking out. So if you don't have a good pop off the bottom, that weight's not coming off your shoulders.
The behind the neck press is something that I haven't really trained much. I remember maybe doing it back when I was coaching my CrossFit classes at Alpha Fit when I first took over the gym. But it was never a lift that, we do often, but to have the option to do it now. And it's like, if when you have it, I feel like when you put the bar on top of the back, you're able to fold up like an accordion much more evenly. But that first time I started training the behind the neck presses again, knowing that we were leading up to Worlds and we could do it, I remember doing it and just feeling like, oh my gosh, this weight just feels so heavy on my back, and then locking it out because, like you said, the arms aren't playing as much of a role until you get to that lockout.
Yeah.
So from going from that massive leg drive and then to the arms having to catch it up overhead, it felt so foreign and so heavy, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this thing work. But I will say that level of adaptation going from that first session into that second session was monumental. I mean, the difference from session 1 to session 2 made me feel like, okay, we can get this, and we can put up some big weight overhead. I think it's going to feel a lot more lined up than doing in front of the neck press.
Oh, it's such an explosive movement too, and it has to be right on point. Like there's been videos in the last, few weeks I've looked back on just myself, and like I'll go to pop and it just doesn't feel right. I'll have to wait 3-4 seconds just to kind of I don't know, not necessarily wiggle it out, but maybe it doesn't even move, but just having my body really like lock in place and having that, okay, this feels good, let's go, It's one of those things also where when we're talking, I mean, I know some guys are going to put up close to 500 pounds, if not 500 pounds. But if it's even slightly off track, that thing's not going to go up. Or you're going to do a dance with it, you're going to have to bail. Yep.
And whether it goes in front of the body or behind the body, that's when you've got a stone-loaded bar. It's potentially scary, man.
Oh, I'm curious to see what Rogue's going to make for us. Honestly, I think.
Is Rogue doing this? Are they outfitting the Flintstone lift?
That's what I heard, yeah. That's what I heard. I mean, I heard Rogue's going to be making that because they made the squat apparatus last year as well. Well, 2020 and 2021. So I'm curious to see what cool thing they come out with, because I don't know if it'll be necessarily a Flintstone lift. I mean, that's obviously what they're calling it, but
I feel like they're going to want to keep that nostalgia factor, though, like reminiscent of the old worlds, like the footage we're talking about.
Yeah.
Seeing those stone carved plates on the side, like there is an aesthetic appeal to it, and the nature of what we do, like lifting odd objects, it's going to look much more cooler if it's just gnarly stone or concrete or something versus shiny plates.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like last year, you were in a railroad yard, and you had like, I guess it would be like the Gold Rush type,
the old prospector town
type thing. So I'm wondering what, because we don't know where we're going.
Well, I have some thoughts on that, and I have no one telling me this, but logic tells me, like, we're in Sacramento, the capital of California. We've gotten the heads up on our events. We know we've got truck pull. We know we've got power stairs. Mm-hmm. I have this idea in my mind that we're going to have just this beautiful backdrop of the Capitol building downtown somewhere, and it's going to be a much more urban feel than, like you said, last year where we had that prospector gold rush in the old town of Sacramento. Or we might be down by the waterfront or something, but I just have a feeling we're going to be downtown near the Capitol. I think they're going to.
The Capitol looks sweet.
Oh, dude! If you're in the capital of the second biggest state in the union, not counting Alaska, I mean, you got to showcase it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my vibe there. But going back to the max lift that we have, the Flintstone lift, seeing some of the other competitors, and I don't like getting caught up in what other people are doing. And I know you're the same way. It's all about our own efforts and when it comes down to there. But I can't help but notice that some guys are really just beating the crap out of their bodies, possibly in a reckless sense. Like, this is an event that's in the finals. You gotta make it through other events to get there.
You got to make it to the finals.
I see some of these guys, man, and they're putting up some great weights overhead. It's very inspiring, very motivating. But at the same time, when you're giving that much focus, and you and I both know what goes into these max effort lifts, when you do secure a PR on that, sometimes it takes a little bit of you with it. And giving that much gravity to something that you have to do other events to get there, I feel like it's a dangerous path to walk. How do you walk that path? We're all preparing for the same events.
There's got to be a fine line on your training. Obviously, you want to be pushing yourself during training, but not to a point where you're being, like you said, reckless and possibly picking up an injury right before Worlds, So you got to be smart. It's not all about who can lift the weight. It's who can be the smartest as well. So
this is an endurance game.
Yep.
This is multi-days, multiple events across all schools of training and strength. And it's not as simple as just being the strongest guy there. You got to be the smartest guy and the most strategic also, and keeping your balance both physically and mentally throughout the whole course. But it's easier said than done, right? in a lot of ways.
Because I wouldn't say it's ego, but it's this. When things start feeling good, especially in the gym, when things start feeling good, you want to push it a little more. You want to push a little more. So it's learning how to just pull in the reins a little bit,
But this also ties back into something that I talked about just as soon as we started, was the confidence factor. Because if you are kicking ass in your training and your lifts are going up, your confidence is increasing. But the veteran competitor will know how to filter out their confidence and use it in a way that's conducive to that progress versus letting it cloud their judgment and going for reckless PRs that might take away from their top end when it comes down to showtime.
Yeah.
But it's a tough line to walk. Out of all the events that we have coming up at Worlds, what are you looking forward to the most?
Honestly, I would say the grip event, but obviously my deadlift's feeling pretty good.
We hit deadlifts yesterday.
Yes.
And your deadlift is looking really solid. I know we always have, we are always our toughest critics, and we can dissect every aspect of our lifts, but your deadlift is looking really strong. We were doing 12, 13-inch axle deadlifts yesterday. I like to call that no man's land. We're talking about a point in the range of motion where you're missing out on that push off the ground. And it's a weird transition area, but we worked up to 815, and we did it for good rep sets yesterday, and you look strong.
Yeah, it's been feeling good. I picked up an injury before last year's Shaw Classic and had some nerve damage in my right leg, and kind of everything just fell off the cliff, and
then you went and squatted and 20 reps with the card squat.
I guess it wasn't too bad then. Even after that, because I had a Scotland right after that, a few weeks after that, and it was kind of a weird injury, because I couldn't really flex my my quad. I lost almost 5 inches off my quad.
5 inches just in diameter
of muscle and everything
Jeez,
else. Yeah,
that's a significant amount of atrophy.
But squats, I don't know. It was weird. I don't know how. I wouldn't say. I know I'm quad dominant. But squats wasn't hindering, So I don't know. It was weird.
So you're looking forward to the grip event, but we don't necessarily know exactly what we're doing for the grip event. I know we've been told to train combinations between parallel grip holds and Hercules holds, but none of us know exactly what the grip apparatus is going to look like.
It's a guessing game. They were saying something about a wrecking ball. I'm assuming it's probably some sort of thing as far as a Hercules hold where it's off, something holding out like a Hercules hold with giant wrecking balls. I don't know.
Wrecking balls, that screams downtown to me. Where do you use wrecking balls in urban environments? I'm telling you, dude, we're going to have a nice spread with the Capitol in the background. It's going to happen. But your grip, out of all the competitors on the roster, as far as grip goes, I think you are the guy to watch. I got to see you do just something phenomenal last year at Worlds 2021. We had a carry medley, and I say we, but I was an alternate last year, so I just was watching and supporting from the sidelines. But there was a carry medley. We had an anvil, right? An anvil, a barrel, and then a frame.
Anvil, 2 barrels and a frame, yep.
And that frame was just bending everyone over. It was 820 pounds?
825 pounds, yeah.
And I think less.
I think it threw a lot of people off because a lot of
That's
people,
an understatement, dude.
Because you would think that the weight for the qualifiers would be a lot lower because they had a 770 in the – there was a medley in the finals. Mm-hmm. So it was 70 farmers into a yoke. But the 825 in the qualifier, I think that, yeah.
It disappointed a lot of people.
Very shocking.
And you were going against Luke Stoltman in your heat, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And I remember watching that because Luke was hot out the gates on those first couple of implements. I mean, he was just moving. And, you know, you could, whether it was myself or anyone else in the crowd was like, Kevin, come on, let's go. But I know you had a plan in mind. Your eyes were on the frame. And you were taking, not taking your time, but you were being very diligent and methodical about those first couple objects to really save your power for that frame. And then when it came time to that frame, the frame that everyone was failing at, not being able to pick up or just dropping it, you picked that thing up and you cleared the whole distance in the blink of an eye. It was just jaw-dropping how fast and how smooth you looked with that heavy magnitude weight.
I mean, I obviously I had a game plan going into it, and it was just be smooth on the load. Because the smoother the load is, and not rushing things. I mean, I always go by a saying, and I've had it since I've started. Because the guy that I used to train with, Van Hatfield, he controlled chaos. Controlled chaos. You want to have control, but you want to have that fire as well. To the point where you're being smart, but still have that fire underneath you. Hey, we're still, you know, we're pushing hard. And I talked to JF before I even did that because he's a smart dude.
JF, I like to call him the Predator. Like, he is just the epitome of a pro athlete just going after the next challenge, which makes it really hard to come to terms with everything that happened to him at the Arnold. But that's another conversation. But your conversation with JF.
So he was just telling me, hey, just be smart on the load. Don't rush it because that frame's going to be the one to really test you. And obviously I knew exactly what he was saying when he said that, because you don't want to, that frame's going to take a lot out of you, so you don't want to lose a lot of that on the load medley. So if you can just be controlled and consistent on, hey, let's pick this weight, let's load it. We don't need to rush. We don't need to run, you know, because I'm a runner. I like to just hustle back to the next one, but it was a slower jog. I actually bobbled the anvil, which kind of fired me up, because the anvil, there's at least one person or two people every year that anvil gets away from them.
Well, you know, when we were practicing in the yard, you know, warming up for the events prior to the contest, I had never picked up an anvil before. Had you? Was this your first anvil?
We had one in 2020.
Okay. So this was your second time going at it. But that was one thing that, since I had never done it, I felt the most nerves for, just because I hadn't done it. Like, I remember talking to Brian, like, what's the best way to do this? I've never done it before. And he's like, Gabe, don't overthink it. I mean, you know, you grab it here, you grab it there, and just pick it up and go. But it's one of those things where, you know, you see an object that gives other people struggle. You have to have that voice of confidence in your own ability. Like, hey, you know what to do. You practice it. Just do the damn thing.
Yep. If you overthink these things, then obviously something's going to slip. And I've really been able to control that the last few years. You know, there's an overthinking, and then there's visualizing how to do something. So I like to visualize, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to pick it. This is how I'm going to load it. This is how, you know, not to the point where, well, what if I grab it here instead of here? What if I, you know, it's like erratic paranoia at a certain point when you go too far. But especially when it's not there, right there in front of you, you know, and it's just, it kind of gets insane.
Talking about visualizing these things, I talked to some of my athletes, the athletes that I coach at Outfit and online, and one of the things I like to advocate is whenever you have a contest, or even if you're going for a PR or something, whenever you're going for that maximal level of your performance, see yourself doing the task in your head, you know, and play it over and over again in your head. Even though you're not there in that moment, just going through the motions, thinking about your setup, thinking about the object, how heavy it's going to feel, that is a level of pre-performance stimulus. And if you can go through it a couple times before you actually do it, it's practice. And you've done it already a couple times, even though you physically haven't done it mentally you have, and that equips you a little bit more. Is that something that you do like routinely before competitions or big performances?
So I train with some pretty cool guys. You know, I came up with Jordan Larson, Willie Mackay, and Van Hatfield. We all pushed each other like to the next level, and they're all guys that are a lot heavier than me as well. And so Jordan, he's the third American to ever pull 1,000 pounds. But he was telling me, you know, because deadlift has always been one of those things that I had a good deadlift, but I have a great deadlift. And he would tell me that he would sit in the shower and visualize, you know, even going down to the bar in the shower and then like exploding through, like him just thinking and thinking and thinking, this is how it feels, this is how it's going to go, this is how, you know, and well, it worked for him because he pulled 1,000 pounds, you know? So he kind of gave me that, and it was kind of I've done it in the shower, but I've done it, you know, I've done it at work, I've done it at my house, I've done it at the gym. It's just putting yourself in, you don't even have to have the weight on. It's just visualizing, this is my setup, this is how I'm going to do it. Visualizing the weight going up. It's all mental, man.
It's all mental, and it's all sharpening the blade. But the ones who know how to fully prepare themselves versus the ones who go into it blind, I mean, that's where you see those differences in performance, you know. And I think also to the Deadlift World Championships last year, I did the same thing Jordan was telling you. Even before I ever set foot in the arena, even before I ever knew what that loaded bar was going to look like with the thousands of people in the stands looking down at it, I tried to imagine it in my head, and that gave me a lot more confidence and a lot more mental resilience to tune out all the potential external factors that could be trying to creep their way into taking away from my performance. And it really gave me more confidence and better equipped my strength to get the job done. But this is a mental game. I mean, it's if the mind's not there, the body goes when the mind takes it. So if the mind ain't there, the strength won't be.
Yep. And that's one thing I've really focused on the last few years as well. Like I've got a brother that does sun mindfulness and meditation stuff, and he's helped me a lot. Not necessarily that I needed it. Well, I mean, it's definitely been a benefit, but I've always had it, especially, you know, coming up in sports all my life. I've been able to tune things out or tune into things, like a light switch, you know, and he's just upped it just a little more and a little more and a little more to the point where it's like I can put myself exactly where I need to be in an instant. It's not a build-up. It's not, you know, and I was having this conversation with Brian when we were having the podcast, and it's like I can sit there and I'll be joking and have this, you know, non-serious face on, and then as soon as the bar is loaded and it's my turn to go, it's like instantly.
Flip that switch and it's go
time.
Flip
the switch and it's go time.
Talking about your older brother, right? You're the youngest in your family, correct?
Yes.
You have some older sisters and one older brother?
Yep. And I have two stepbrothers. So the brother I was talking about, he actually works for the sheriff's department, but he does this on the side, and yeah, he's
that's
smart,
awesome. I'm 100% agree that we all need to have that meditative place that we go to kind of recollect and recalibrate ourselves. But where does Kevin Ferris find his zen? You know, where do you take yourself to get to that meditative zone?
So he told me, find a place where you've been that you felt the most calm. Mine was in two places. It was in the mountains and at the beach, you know. So I had two places I could be, you know, I could close my eyes and visualize me being there, and that just brought the calmness on. So like we were saying about nerves, it's not necessarily nerves, but it's not using energy, you know. So when you're at comp, like Worlds, it's very slow paced. You're on the video side of everything. It's not
TV time.
It's not the athlete's time. So there's a lot of sitting around, and it's a hurry up and wait game. So even my first year, you know, it was kind of like, not necessarily pacing, but it was, I couldn't calm myself. And I was using I was using energy. I was wasting energy on being in the moment, being nervous, watching other guys, to the point where like 2020, I shut all that off. I would sit, but I would watch what people are using, what people are doing, I could zen myself in. I guess I could, kind of close everything off and just, we're resting and we're not using any energy. So, yeah.
It's great to hear you say that the places you find your zen are at the mountains and the beach. I mean, I can relate to that too. And a lot of that is part of, it gave me the extra push to get out here too is, one, I wanted to make sure I made the investment to come out here and train with a brother and a fellow world's strongest man competitor and get the hard training done. But two, the mountains are right there. Yeah. I mean, and that's where I find my meditative spots where I really can recalibrate and reset myself, especially for the trials we're about to face. Tune out all the noise, all the stressors of reality. You and I can talk about this now. Now I'm a dad. You're a father. We're both husbands. Like we both know, we both work, day jobs. I mean, there's a lot of stressors that can follow you around. And when you have those moments where you can kind of reclaim that clarity and that focus and that meditative zen, like we're talking about, I find it here in the mountains too, and it's priceless. You need to have those places. It's not
all about lifting. It's not all like having meditation. Like even for people that are listening to this, like doing meditation or mindfulness stuff, like it's great to have for sports or hobbies or things, but like it's not the only thing that it's done for me. Like the stresses of life, financially, work, kids, everything. I mean, it's really helpful with everything. So, and same with the sport. Like the sport has showed me like I can push through anything. If I can lift thousands of pounds of weight, I can do anything,
It's lessons that strongman has taught me, and then also some of my time that I've spent climbing mountains has taught me that, we know what real hard is. Mm-hmm. The trials that we face have shown us what real hard is. Yep. That when all the things that seem tough at face value, that kind of start to weigh on us a little bit, is like, no, wait, this ain't real hard. I know what that is, and this ain't it. Yeah. And the life lessons that this sport has taught us, and kind of on the subject of meditation, I just want to pick your brain because I wonder if you tried it before. But I've had a lot of people talk to me about sensory deprivation tanks. Have you ever done one of those? I've never done one, but from my understanding, it's like a little chamber or like a little pod that you put yourself in. It blacks out all light, blocks out all noise, and it's just you in this totally quiet environment that you don't have any of your senses other than your internal voice.
I've done a salt pod.
Oh yeah? Tell me what that is.
So it's an enclosed, essentially a bath, but it has a top that closes down on it, and it's got over 1,000 pounds of salt in it, so that you sit and float on top of the water.
Oh wow!
So it literally feels like zero gravity, and you can close this. You can close the lid, and you can have a light on, or you can have the light off. When I did it, I shut the light off.
Does it tune out sound too?
It drowns out sound. Yeah, you couldn't hear anything.
So that sounds like a sensory deprivation tank.
So, and it was at first it was kind of like, not necessarily creepy, but it was like, it felt like you were in space. It felt like you were just, if you could stay still enough where there was no water splashing, and because it just sat you right on top of the water.
That's kind of like what I've heard people talk about if they've gone into the Dead Sea before, where they can just kind of sit there and float.
Yep.
But exactly. Where did you do this
at? Place in Provo.
Oh, so, man. Yeah, I've always wanted to. I've heard people talk about it. I've even heard Joe Rogan talk about it before too. Like, dude, it's just something that I've heard them say that there's this point where you're like 5, 10, 15 minutes in where you just reach this level of like self-awareness without having your senses about you.
Yeah. It's called floating spa.
Floating spa. I would love to try it out.
Yeah. I'm sure they've got them in Texas, but yeah, crazy experience though. Like sat in there for an hour and just shut the lights off and just like kind of just put yourself in your own head and just kind of just float.
I would love to invest in one of those at some point, especially for what we do. I feel like having something like that, it would pay for itself in no time.
Oh yeah.
You know, but getting back to your grip, you recently achieved some pretty monumental stuff. I was with you in Glasgow, Scotland for the Giants Live World Tour Finals, and you set the world record for the nickel stone carry. And just recently, in March, you set the world record for the Denny stone carry at the Arnold.
Yep.
I know it's not on the actual Denny stones, but it was on the replica ones that Rogue had. But it's still to qualify.
Actually heavier than the original Denny's.
Really? By how much?
A few pounds, but
so like as legit of a record as it could be, especially in poundage.
Yeah.
But dude, you've got arguably one of the best grips in the game. How did that come to be? Because grip has been something for me that has never come easy. And it's not for the sake of not being able to train it, but I've had some ligament tears in my fingers over the years, and that's always, take one step forward, two steps back sort of thing. But I am so impressed by that grip strength that just shines above all else. Your grip strength. How'd you get it?
Obviously I got a wrestling background, and that's, it's a lot of grappling. It's a lot of, gripping onto people. So, I would say that. I would say, my daily job as well, tightening and pipe. I do fire sprinklers. So dealing with, from 1 inch pipe to 6 inch pipe, tightening pipe in all day long, sitting there on a wrench, or, even having my hands around pipe and just, putting it in and tightening it down.
I just had this mental image, like flashing forward to like 40 years in the future of you as an old man, just like having one of those most abrasive hands that goes in for a handshake and crushes every hand that he gets without knowing that old man grip strength. But I mean, you've got these world records now, and I know people are going to want to come knocking at your door to try to take them away from you. But I don't see any point where you're not able to take them right back. And I think we had talked about this. You're on track to go back to Scotland.
Yeah. So, well, let's say this first. So records are made to be broken.
Of course.
So I would never be upset if someone tried to come from them, especially, even like Eddie Hall's, I feel like our sport in general, you've got some amazing feats of strength, and it only, like, I think people visualize like, oh, this person did it, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to push for it, because, and I brought it up in Brian's podcast, but I mean, I don't think that it's clicking for people, because we're doing, okay. So back in when Mariusz Pudzianowski was competing in that kind of era, 105 guys are doing that weight now. Like, what we thought was impressive, younger guys, smaller guys are doing now. We are doing massive weight now, and it's only going up.
That bar just keeps getting pushed forward.
It's just getting,
like you said, the record's being made to be broken. When those records do get broken, the ones who want to continue pushing their bounds with their own strength, it only brings out even better feats of strength in the individual. And that constant chase just drives the amazing spectacles that this sport is comprised of. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, it's crazy to see what the body can do too. That's insane. 1,100 pound deadlifts, that's massive. Whether it's suitless, suit straps, it doesn't matter. That's still impressive. Like, but anyways, back to, my Scotland. I got the invite to go back to Scotland.
The Scots want to see that world record broke again. That's for sure.
They do. Yeah, I've had a lot of people reaching out to me.
You lit up that stadium when you carried those stones, my friend.
Yeah,
it was something else.
I was joking because, after the show, we sat around and sign things and talk to people and talk to fans and stuff, and everyone was like, "I can't believe you came into Scotland and you took it from a Scottishman." And I'm like, "Yeah, I need to like get up and get out of here."
I was going to ask, did you get anyone who was like, "Hey, what are you doing, American, coming here taking a Scottish record?"
No, when I was like joking around, I was like, "Yeah, that's why I got my flight for 3 a.m. Like, I'm trying to get out of here, But no, I'm excited. I'm excited to go back. We're gonna go out there for a week, and I'm gonna attempt the Denny Stone record. I wouldn't say I had a lot of hate mail, but I had a lot of people reaching out and saying, "Oh, those are replica stones," blah blah blah. I realize that, but I'm also a 3-hour flight away. I'm going to go attempt them. Like, it's practice or whatever, like.
It's one of those things where, like, if they want to go out of their way to say something negative, like, this person obviously doesn't have anything better to do with their lives. You just got to kind of shrug it off because they don't understand the reality of what you're doing, you know, or everything that goes into it. Like you said, it's a 3-hour flight away. You got an opportunity at a record at a strength that you know that you have and you can shine on. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's not so easy to get to Scotland, and it's not so easy to line it up so you can lift those stones. So I reached out to Brett Nichols and a few other guys, and they're gonna set it up.
Great guys, right? It's such a joy to be around.
Amazing guys. Yeah, they were both just ecstatic.
That is a crew of individuals who just live to see strength in all of its shapes. Like they will do whatever they can to bring out the best in the people who are attempting these feats. And when they were there at the SSC Hydro there in Scotland, they were so fun to be around. And Brett was just the greatest. He always has a smile on his face just to see all of his athletes picking up his stones.
Yeah, yeah, he's all about it, man. I mean, it's a huge feat as well, you know, knowing that there's, you know, I think there's less than 200 people that have ever even just picked the stones, let alone walk them, you know. So that's, I mean, if you think of how many people are in the world.
If we put a percentage on that, that's out of 8 billion people in the world, less than 200 people do it. I mean, that is a minuscule amount percentage-wise.
And it's so historic too, you know, like that's, I'll probably freaking cry when I pick them up, you know, just because
rightfully so.
Because I know how many people have touched these, you know, and yeah, just the history behind them.
Well, that's the thing with these legendary stones, you know, whether it's, you know, the Husafell, the Denny stones, when you have this trial of strength that has been used for decades and thousands of years, you know, across proving one's own ability to his countrymen or his fellow townspeople, you feel that energy when you go and touch these things. I mean, it reverberates, it resonates, and it empowers you further, supercharging you, like knowing that you are a part of history.
Well, it's hearing the stories too, you know, like all these stones in Iceland, you know, people, they couldn't be on the fishing boat unless they picked this stone. They couldn't be, you know, they couldn't work on the farm without walking this stone. They couldn't, you know, so it's you're not going to be a man unless you pick this stone. Like it's, hearing those stories is just like, this is amazing. This is stuff that's like pushes you, you know, pushes younger men to push past. Like, I'm not going to have a job unless I pick this up. Oh, all right. Like
the reality of what you got to do and getting it done sets in, huh? And but you feel that, and there is an energy about it.
Could you imagine if the world was like that? Like, oh, I'm not going to get this job unless I deadlift 600 pounds.
There would be a lot less soft people in it, that's for sure. But as far as world records go, you know, you've got these. I mean, forgive me for being ignorant if I'm unaware, but besides the Denny's and the Nichols, do you have any other world records right now?
Nope, not yet.
What other world records are in your sights that you want?
Man, I don't. Most of them are grip because I was so close to getting the farmer's record for distance.
What is that record?
So it's I think it's 365 per hand, and it's over 100 and I think it's over 180 feet.
And that's a straightaway?
I'd have to look back on it, but
it's a straightaway, right? No turns?
No, it's turns.
Oh, turns.
Yeah, we did it back in Giants Live 2019, North American Giants Live. Mark Felix was there, and I was like literally right there, you know. Like I think he went maybe 5 feet further than me. So I took second in that event, but I was like feeling good. Grip wasn't even giving out. It was actually my legs that gave out before my grip. So that's one I'd like to push for.
Mark Felix has arguably some of the strongest hands in the game, just like yourself, but he's got such big hands. When we were all there in Scotland, were there any memorable exchanges between you and Mark, you know, talking about your new world record at the time with the nickel stones?
Dude, I love Mark. I always talk to him. I like to just, and it's not even necessarily strongman stuff. Like we both work construction, you know, and we'll talk about that, or we'll talk about family. You know, he's got boys too. So, But yeah, he just told me, like, don't think about it. And that was actually the first time I've ever even picked anything like that. I did a Highland game thing here in Utah where they had a similar setup with stones, but they were like not even close to that weight. And I actually got the record in those. So they, whoever broke.
I like how your face just lights up with a big smile as you say it.
Whoever broke the record, the stones are named after you, and they stayed my name for. That was 7 years ago, so they've stayed under my name for that long. But
and they're still under your name.
Yeah, still.
Are they the Kevin stones or the Ferris?
The Ferris stones. Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah, they were named the
cool,
Payson stones. But yeah, they're the Ferris stones now.
That's a nice trophy,
right?
Yeah.
So no one's been able to beat it. So, yeah, I told myself. I even talked to him. I was like, "Well, what do you think?" Because I've never done hook grip. So I didn't even try to attempt it, So I just told him, just pick in, don't take big steps, just walk casually with them, because I'll want to swing on you. So that's kind of the approach I had, and I kind of sped it up because it felt so good to the point where, okay, now it's like rocking me back and forth. So I slowed it down, but, yeah, it's actually the first time I ever torn too. Torn my hands
on the nickel stones.
Yeah, first time ever. Yeah, it was a pretty nasty tear too, but yeah.
But that's pushing it to the absolute furthest you can, and that's why you got a world record.
Yep. So, yeah, we talked after, and he's just like that was phenomenal. Even to see Mark not even go, as far as I did. It's also humbling. Just not one to, feats of strength are just amazing to me. Doesn't matter who's doing it, but they're just amazing to me. So being able to, I think I was the second guy, because weren't you the first?
I was the first one to go on the nickel stones that day. And I mean, that was my first time ever picking up stones for a carry like that, handled stones. But first time picking up ring handles. I mean, I tried to mimic it in training, but ring handles are a very different beast for anyone who's never done them before, because
different sizes as well.
You got your ring finger and your middle finger more tightly gripped than the index finger and the pinky finger. So when those things go, they're trying to pry apart your hands from the external fingers first. And it's a very unique feeling if you've never done it before. But I mean, those stones, as soon as they start rocking and smacking into your legs, they just want to pop the fingers open. Yep. And it was a tough beast. It really was.
Yeah. But yeah, one thing that I don't think a lot of people know is that the biggest stone, well, even for the Denny's as well, so nickels and Denny's, the bigger stone has a bigger ring. Smaller stone has a smaller ring. So they fit different in your hands, which throws you off as well. And height picks as well. So obviously the bigger one's a little bit bigger pick. Smaller one's going to be way down there.
But that's one of the things I love about strongman too, is the non-uniformity of some of the feats of strength. And we were kind of talking about it when we did stones yesterday, how the stones that we trained on were not like concrete sealed perfect convention center floor stones. They were gritty, they were dusty, they had chunks of old tacky and well, my kind of stones, that's the kind of stones I like. But I remember sharing a memory with you of the contest I put on Beer Stone recently, where I had some stones that were not perfectly sealed stones. They were the same stones I train on that sit out in my yard, that I did clean them up for the show, but I still remember hearing athletes talk about, oh, these stones are so dusty, they're so powdery, my tacky's getting all dirty. I'm like, guys, this is strongman. Like, suck it up and lift the damn thing, you know? But, walking with uneven objects, being able to have the core, the back, everything balanced against that, that's just another testament towards the feats of strength that we do.
This sport is unpredictable. You can't think that everything is going to go as planned. Ever. Like, it's just, everything's going to be different at every single comp. You can't plan for dirty stones. You can't plan for, you just have to go and give it your all.
The one who adapts is going to be the one that comes up on top.
And I really give a lot of credit to Van as well, because a lot of his equipment was not great. It's not great. It was horrible to pick. It was horrible to do events on. It just gritty, or the handles just didn't feel right, or they just rip into you, or the distance on the farmers was wide, or, you know, it was these things that just, once you get to comp and you felt the stuff, it was just like, oh, this is what we're using? Like, wow, all right. And that would carry on in my performance, you know. Train harder. That way when you get there, you know things are going to feel different, you know. We
had a great last training session here today for my last day here in Utah before I take off. We did some yoke and we did some knack box carries out at your gym, the Force Gym in here in Orem, right?
Yep.
And we were training outside on a sloped parking lot, an uneven parking lot, and we worked up to a very heavy yoke, well above 800 pounds. And it was one of those things where you pick this thing up on the uneven terrain. It's like, wow, this feels so much harder than it would be on a nice flat level floor.
It felt great. It felt awesome.
I didn't say it didn't feel great, but it was definitely more difficult.
Yeah.
But we talked about the same thing there is, you know, you train in these environmental conditions that are a little bit more arduous or less ideal than what we'll face in contests. And when you get there to contest, it's just that much easier.
Yep.
And things just click. It feels like the heavens open up and the angels sing. I mean, it's preparing yourself. And people get so caught up in making sure that everything is just so perfect in their training, with the equipment being as clean as possible, the floor being perfectly level. And it's a recipe for disaster, because when you do get faced with anything slightly off in contest, the person is not going to be able to have that mental resilience. Like, I'm not ready for this. I don't know what to do. It's not perfect. I don't know. But
we'll even watch the people that are bitching and moaning about that too, because they're the ones that are not going to perform that well. They're going to let it get to them. You know, oh, these stones are dirty. Oh, I'm not going to be able to. And
they're going to use that. Well, that's the reason why I couldn't get my best.
It's an excuse now, and it turns into this whole like spiel. You know, we've been in this sport for long enough. I know the stupid game. I know the stupid people crying about, well, the pick height is not what you said it was. Anything can change, dude. Anything can change.
I remember as an amateur, you know, leading up to competitions like Strongman Corp Nationals or something like that, getting on any of like the Facebook pages for the events, and all the people putting messages like they needed the exact measurements of everything. I'm like, guys, what the hell? You do not belong. Yeah, you're in the wrong. Go home.
Yeah, you're in the wrong sport. Go play ping pong or something. Like,
it used to drive me nuts.
Yeah. This sport, I mean, it's unpredictable, and you have to freaking plan for the worst. You know, I mean, we can definitely talk about elements, because living in Texas, you're well above 100 degrees constantly. I mean,
that was one of the best things about coming up to the mountains with you this weekend, is that we've already been in triple-digit weather for several weeks, and I know right outside it's probably in the low 40s right now. And I'm walking with my daughter in the morning. It was 38 degrees and sunny. I mean, it felt so amazing coming from the crazy humidity and the triple-digit weather in Texas to come up to here. But like you said, training out in those extremes, it's far from ideal. My gym does not have air conditioning, and it's another one of those things where, like, if I can push myself to train in these less than ideal factors, when it comes time to compete and things are a little bit more ideal and comfortable, I'm supercharged.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I can say the same thing, because for the first 4 years, you know, I trained in a gym that didn't have climate control. So it was either dead ass freezing. I mean, we're talking, you know, below freezing, where
you grip those barbells and your hand just sticks to them because they're that ice cold.
Yeah, they're ice cold, or it's 100 degrees outside. It doesn't matter, but we're still showing up, we're putting in the work, and it doesn't matter, you know. And I've talked to Canadians, you know, like Melissa Peacock, you know, like. And Max, they train in the elements as well. You know, it's not always fun, but guess what? You can't fix it, but we're still going to put the work in.
It makes you tougher.
So
it makes you more resilient.
It does.
Like a suit of armor of sorts.
Well, and it also helps with the whole recovery as well, because then you don't have to take an ice bath.
Yeah. Well, the ice bath's for you, and the sauna's for me. Right?
There you go.
But talking about, you know, the elements and training and different factors, I can complain and moan about it all the time in training, but I have a lot of respect for, you know, athletes like you and Brian who train at high altitude environments. And I know you might not consider where we're at right now high altitude. We're at what, 4,500 feet, around there?
Yeah, about that.
Me coming from 96 feet pretty close to sea level, every 1,000 feet that you go up in elevation, it makes it harder because it's thin air. There's less oxygen concentration, and I never feel it when I'm actually doing the movement, but it's the recovery in between,
catching your breath,
ripping off my clothes because I feel just so claustrophobic. The whole Ricky Bobby I'm on fire that I've liked to reference through our training this week, but I have a lot of respect for you guys that train at high altitude, because you might take it for granted, but I know when I go home back to sea level after spending some time in altitude, I feel so supercharged by the oxygen concentration that I am just giving my best performances. And how many times have you felt that your training in a more high altitude environment has come in clutch with your performance?
Obviously, yeah. When we go to sea level and stuff, like every time I go to the UK or Worlds in Florida, like it felt like I could just go forever. Obviously, you'd still be tired, but catching my breath after the event was like a breeze, So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a benefit. It's definitely a huge benefit. I mean, even Brian, I know Brian, because he's got his house up in Estes, and that's 8,300 feet.
It's right at 8,000 feet, yeah.
A little over that. So, I mean, obviously a big man like him coming down to Sacramento, like he's been training up there, so. Yeah,
his weight is not going to be as much of a factor as people think, because he's just so supercharged by all the O2.
Yep.
But, and it's, it really brings out a challenge when I come up here. But again, this is another reason why I'm here, is that the little environmental adversity, just to give that last little supercharge prior to Worlds. But, and we've talked about this, about not getting caught up in other people. So I'm saying this very lightly, but going into Worlds, I know we are always gunning for ourselves the most. Are there any athletes that you're looking forward to seeing compete, or most weary of going up against? Maybe not, weary is not the best word, but are there any athletes that you have your eyes on?
Martins is on a roll.
He is the one athlete that I wanted to talk about, from my perspective, because it was always like, is he going to have the comeback that he wants to? But then it started at that Rogue Invitational. Like, he is clearly on the path to rampage in the best of ways.
He's looking good. He's obviously always a contender.
But there's also that voice of like, are the issues that he's had in the past going to resurface?
Come back?
I hope they don't, but it's always like, man.
You never know. You never know. Stoneman brothers are always up there.
You think Tom's gonna get another?
I don't know, because you see, I the closer and closer I get to comp, I don't like to watch stuff.
No, me either. That's why this part of our conversation is very
social media. Kind of, if I see a guy that we're competing with post something, I kind of just glance at it and then just whatever, go through it.
I'm the same way. But I know
it's nothing against that.
I know a lot of our fans want to know, like, if we have our eyes on anyone, which I know you and I don't. But if we were indulging that notion, let's just play the hypothetics. I would love to see Brian win a 5th title. If neither you or me could win World's Strongest Man, I would love to see him win a 5th.
And I know you can vouch for him as well, as far as me too, because I went out and trained with him for 3 sessions as well, and he's looking good, man. He's looking really good. It's one bobble. It's one.
We saw it in the stones last year.
It's not to say that he's not great at stones.
No,
it's not to say that he's not great at stones.
Obviously, one of the best stone loaders in history.
Yep. It's just it always comes down to a point. It always comes down to, I could have done a little bit better here, or I could have done a little better here, or it's just, that's the name of the game, man. You have to be well rounded on everything, because one little slip up will set you back.
Yeah. Regarding World's Strongest Man in 3 weeks, are there any feelings that you have towards it that are giving you either the most supercharged emotions or any nerves? Just anything surrounding Worlds. I know you and I both have followers that would love to hear our thoughts on it. Where are you at right now?
Oh, I'm sitting in a good headspace right now.
The training looks great.
Training's been really good. I kind of had, I've yet to have like an honest prepping session where I didn't have a little road bump. Was dealing with a little road bump a few weeks ago, but we're getting out of it, and we're sitting really good right now. Like, I really feel really confident this year. that's great, you know, and I'm just excited, man. I'm really excited.
So stoked,
I think
man.
it's going to be a great year. Great events, and stack class, you know, 30 guys this year and a lot of new namers too, you know, who's going to throw a wrench in here and there. So
there's a lot of potential curveballs in there.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for sure, because some waves are definitely going to be made. But it's so great to kind of reflect on everything that's about to happen, because we see it in some of the new guys trying to, and I still consider myself a new guy. I mean, this will be my second World's Strongest Man, my first time getting a full invite and not being an alternate. But, you know, this is the third time that I'm potentially going into the stage, including last year as an alternate. But you and I were talking about this earlier today, that the prep into this has to be a build-up. You can't burn yourself up leading up to it, because you're going to break your body before you even get a chance to go. And I see it in some of the new guys that are just trying to make a name for themselves already. But it's not
about clout, dude.
It's not about clout, man. It's about what you do on game day.
It has nothing to do with what you're posting. It's how you're going to perform in a few weeks, you know. So why burn yourself out for a few likes?
No, because there's much more on the stake.
Social media has become that way, though. You know, everyone gets this next big lift is going to get me 1,000 new followers. Is it about followers or is it about titles?
What it comes down to, like, the whys. Why did you get into this? Did you get into this to get more followers on Instagram, or did you get into this to become the world's strongest man?
I can tell you right now, it had nothing to do with anyone but pushing myself. And that's why I love this sport. It pushes me every single day to be better in every area of my life too, not just strongman. You know, it's pushed me through a lot of things in my life. So having followers, yeah, that's great. You know, I love seeing people, you know, follow my progress and, you know, congratulating me and saying that I inspire them. That's amazing. I never thought I would be one of those people that, you know, someone to look up to. So I love social media in that aspect, but I am not one to, especially like a few weeks out from shows, dude. I don't post.
No, got to tune out the noise.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I haven't always been that same way, because it's as you're up and coming, and that's why I can relate to some of the new guys trying to make noise for themselves. Is you want the people out there to know how badly you believe in yourself. Yep. And that is a tough line to walk. But, you know, this year, especially with Worlds, like, I haven't been posting a lot. I don't really care about posting my stuff right now. I'll post a thing here and there just so people can kind of like stay included in the loop, because it is a very profound joy to know that you inspire someone. And I hold a lot of that true to my core as being important. But what's more important is the reasons why I got into this in the first place, and to not lose track of that. But you and I are on I feel like we're on a very strong track of progress and positive gain in our build-up. And that's what it is. It's a build-up to this stage that's about to take place in Sacramento in 3 weeks. And it is just damn exciting, man. I'm so stoked to be there with you again.
Be a hell of a year.
That's for sure. A hell of a year for sure. But I think it's time to space out, bro. I think it's time to space out. There's a section of these podcasts where I like to talk about space, and it's I like just getting people fired up about the idea of space again. I've got a voice. I've got microphones. Let's talk about it. So, Kevin Ferris, if you had the opportunity to live on another planet besides Earth, and you had full access to the colonial capabilities, you know, like you're not the first person there. Like you've got like all the setup you need to thrive, whether it's the planet having all the oxygen, whatever. But if you could live on another planet besides Earth, would you? Taking your family with you, of course, because you're a family man, you're a husband.
I think it would be a scary thing, you know.
Oh,
obviously, we'd all have to be down for it, you know, because who knows if we're coming back. But
if everyone was down for it, and you were the last voice who needed to give the affirmative, would you?
I think it would be pretty cool, you know. I think.
Let's talk Mars. What if Mars was already colonized? If you had the opportunity to relocate your family to a fully decked out colony on the Mars, would you?
You know Earth, and you know the things that are here, and you've got some beautiful, beautiful things. You know, I've seen some beautiful things, especially, you know, just traveling around the world. Oh man, I guess I don't know. I think Mars would be pretty amazing. But if there was another place that was like Earth, you know, Avatar Land or something.
Mars would be amazing, but Mars in reality is a cold, barren desert and doesn't have much going for it.
Dude, I already live in a desert. I don't want to.
Oh, you don't live in a desert. You've got the forest right up there. You can see waterfalls and beautiful caves. There's still snow up on those peaks.
Yeah.
But, you know, you and I were both talking about the movie Interstellar. That's one of our favorite movies. If a wormhole opened up right outside Earth that would take us to, like, what is one of those exoplanets like Kepler 22b or something like that.
Yes.
Very similar to Earth. You know, it's got foliage, it's got the potential for life, oxygen. Would you do it? Would you
Absolutely.
go? Yeah?
Absolutely. I'd love to attempt it. I'd love to see what else is out there. I mean, there's definitely beauty other than Earth, obviously, but yeah, take the plunge, man. Take the plunge. You only live once. Let's see what else is out there.
I feel like for all the beauty and the bountiful splendor that's here on Earth, to know that already exists here, that's got to be only the tip of the iceberg to what else could potentially be out there.
Yeah.
You think there's extraterrestrial life out there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How far do you think we have to go to find it?
Oof. I don't think that far. I think it's still in our...
You think it's in our solar system?
Ooh. Maybe.
It seems, I know that there's some, I forget I think methane lakes on Titan, Saturn's moon, that could house the potential for life there. And we've only sent such a small, scant amount of instruments to scan the planets in our solar system. I think there's just so much unknown.
But even in the last 10 years, you've seen where space travel has gotten. I mean, we're already looking to send people up to Mars. I mean,
before the end of this decade.
Who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought we would travel that far? I mean, that's
to counteract that statement.
Months to get there.
It's months to get there. But in the 60s, you know, when we were in the space race to get to the moon with Russia, Mars was right up next. You know, that was the next forefront. But somehow along the way, we kind of got lost track, and there was a blip in time where we stopped giving a crap about it. But here we are, back on the precipice, and SpaceX is doing great things. I mean, Starship, what a beautiful vehicle, man. I cannot wait to take my daughter to go see Starship launch from the SpaceX Starbase there in Boca Chica. Dude, next time, when you come down to Texas, we should go out there.
Yeah, I'd love to go out there.
I saw that rocket in person. There are no pictures that do justice to how big that thing is.
Oh, massive, I bet.
I can only imagine what the roar of those engines would feel and sound like when it takes off.
Yeah.
What excites you the most about the prospects of space travel and exploration?
That it's never ending.
I could not agree more.
Like, yes, it is dark. Like, okay, for example, even growing up, you know, we would go on these backpacking trips where you would go out into the middle of nowhere, okay? And you would look up and you would have the moon and you'd have the stars, and that was the only light you had. And to see how many stars there were that are planets, you know, we're not the only living out there. We're not the
can't
only,
be.
But how far away, you know, how far away these other planets are, you know, millions and millions and billions of light years away. But it's crazy. It's crazy to think about, you know, like these are the things that I think about if I sit down too long, or if I'm out in the wilderness, or have too many drinks.
Do you remember seeing the bands of the Milky Way for the first time, looking up at the sky?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, and I don't know if they still teach it in like elementary, but like we had a little in elementary. In fourth grade we had a little camp out, and we'd have these little maps or whatever, and you could hold them up to the sky, and you could find the Big Dipper or the Little Dipper or the Milky Way, or and I remember that was pretty amazing, just being that young and just knowing like these are all like, look at all these stars, like thousands, millions of them. But
out of all the planets in our solar system, not including Earth, you can include Mars. If you could go there safely, which one would be your favorite to go to?
Jupiter.
That is the exact one I would have picked. I don't know if it's because it's the biggest or it just looks the coolest with all the swirling and the storms and But I would love
Saturn's pretty cool too. But yeah, I think I'd choose Jupiter for sure.
The things that you have come to learn over your life about space, what has been the most fascinating thing? If you could just, the first thing that comes to mind.
How much the sun actually does for us. And what it does to keep everything else in line. And to know how hot it is and how it hasn't burned up. Those are the things that keep my mind kind of, like for something that burns so hot that hasn't burned out. Will it ever burn out?
It will burn out.
It will burn out, but I hope it burns out when we're done.
Well, we better be out of here.
That's going to be cold.
We better be out of here by then, because I think I remember seeing a statistic that when the sun does start to burn out, the sun's a giant hydrogen reactor, and it keeps producing helium through nuclear fission. There will be a point where the sun turns into a red supergiant, where the size of the sun will extend into the orbit of Earth around it. So can you imagine the sun, as big as it is now, expanding even further to where the Earth is engulfed by it?
Well, just exploding and just engulfing us.
Yeah, well before the sun burns out. As the sun turns into a supergiant, it'll already engulf the Earth. So
I hope it's fast.
Well,
I don't want to see it slow-mo.
I don't either, but if it gets big enough, there's a point where before it even gets to us, that the conditions here on Earth would just be uninhabitable. But I talked to some of my other athletes I had on a podcast a couple weeks ago that is one of the ways that life here as we know it will stop, and we have to make sure that we have become a species that extends beyond Earth by that point. And I think that vision and that reality is some of the things that drive people like Elon Musk in making sure that we are able to do that. But it's hard for people to get on board with seeing that far into the future, because there are so many real problems that Earth faces here for us currently living on it, whether it's politics, wartime, famine, hunger, injustice, whatever you have it. And it's very hard to look past those things that are affecting life now. But at some point, the Earth will not be here.
Well, I think that's the thing that I don't know. I don't know if we've gotten there yet. I mean, there's very good things about this world, and there's very ugly things, and I don't think that we've gotten to that point where people are ready to get off this planet. Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I don't think that. It's the unknown as well, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Last question I have. And at 2020 Worlds, I had asked a lot of the athletes there at one of the dinner tables, and I don't think you were there because I think you would have answered a certain way if you were. But I asked them, if you had the opportunity to lift in space for the name of science, to use your strength in the name of science in space, would you do it? Let's say NASA called you tomorrow and was like, we want to send you up to the space station. Or let's say SpaceX calls you and like, hey, Kev, we want to put you on one of our missions to the moon, and we want to have you use your strength to do some experiments on the moon. Would you do it?
I would say how much first. But no, I think, you're putting your name in the books.
Even if that meant that only you could go up there and your family had to stay back.
Whew, I don't know.
Because if the flip case, if that meant that your family had to go up there with you too, would that change your mind?
It would definitely change my mind. Yeah, I mean, family's everything. Especially, it would take a lot for me to say yes to something where I knew my family wasn't involved in it. And I think you could probably agree with that. Especially having a new little girl. You can't be selfish anymore.
You can't.
You've got people that depend on you and everything else. So, yeah.
But if I could, I would definitely go up and use my strength in the name of science if I could. And like you said, it's putting your name in the history books.
First one to deadlift 1,000 pounds on Mars.
I have always wondered, like, if I can deadlift 1,000 pounds on Earth, I want to deadlift I want to do a PR on the moon and see what that would be. Could you imagine, like, just the barbell, the size of the barbell that you have to, loading up an elephant bar with thin steel plates and just snatching it
snatching 2,000 pounds over your head. Is like
throwing it out and it just flies out of the atmosphere.
It just starts pulling you up. Like,
oh man! Well, thank you for indulging me on those space thoughts. Like I said, I just like getting people talking about space again. You know, I've got a voice.
It's a never-ending thing. Like you could go on and on about space too. You know, it's one of those things. It's known, but it's unknown.
It is, but that's the beauty and that's the curiosity of it. And I really hope that my daughter grows up with that same level of curiosity too, because she's growing up in a very exciting time.
Yeah,
you know,
with a dad like you, she's following, man. She's following in your footsteps.
I like to think so. And the last thing I want to do in this podcast episode is I like to reach out to the fans and the followers and see if they have any questions that they want to, ask my guests that I have on here. So I did source a couple of questions off of Instagram, a story post I put out. Ray Ironfork wants to know, how does Kevin stay so humble and down to earth?
Well, I would say, I've been blessed with something. I've been blessed with strength, good health, and I will never take granted. I would never want to rub that in anyone else's face. I would never want to, call something out and make people feel worthless. I've been blessed with a gift, and I would never want to overstep that ever. It doesn't matter. Even if I knew I could do it, I'll never call something out.
Does that come from your appreciation of the gifts that you've been blessed with?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the way I've been raised. Stay humble, man. Stay humble, because you look like an idiot if you call something out and you can't do it. So I'd rather just.
The people that are like that, they don't last long in places like we're at.
That's unfortunate too, but.
Alex Lee wants to know, any advice for lifters 30 plus that want to stay strong as they age?
Recovery is everything. I would say I take more time on recovery than I actually do in the gym, I would think. And that's investing in recovering tools. I invested in a infrared sauna, which has really benefited in my training. It's benefited in just life in general, working construction, and eating right. For the first few years, man, I didn't just engulf junk food, and it worked. It was my power food for a long time. I loved In-N-Out. I loved Wendy's. I loved freaking getting shakes and everything else. But then, I started getting around 30, and it's like, all right.
The body doesn't process the same anymore, right?
No, it doesn't.
Our parents always warned us about it, but
junk food is not kosher in your 30s.
Yeah. Ray Barriant wants to know, are there any old World's Strongest Man events you hope to try in contest one day?
Whew. Well, it's funny. That's a good question. That's a good question, because I would say the Flintstone lift, because I remember seeing this pop up. Obviously not 95, because I was only 5 years old, but there were events that popped up. The car flip, remember that?
Yeah,
car flip.
I remember seeing John Paul just go crazy on the car flip and
sliding into it. A lot of people got hurt on that.
A lot of people tore biceps on that.
But how cool is that though? Flipping cars, like,
just gnarly. That is the essence of what we do.
I've never had road rage that bad that I wanted to flip a car, but it would be fun,
With your wrestling background, would you get excited if World's Strongest Man brought back sumo wrestling as an event?
No,
because
I'm not 400 pounds. I think I could hold my own.
What if they put you up against me?
I think I could hold my own. Honestly, I obviously having Greco and freestyle stuff. I think I could hold my own, definitely.
And Terry Rady wants to know, who's the best looking 105 kg pro?
Me, obviously, at the time. But
do you still consider yourself a 105 kg pro? Is that like presidents, where once they're president, they stay president?
I've got my pro card. Undefeated. No. I mean, if
this is a conversation being totally in touch with our own sexuality, right? But I feel like Nick Canby has like this.
He's a good-looking dude.
He's got this Clark Kent vibe going on.
And he's got hair. A lot of strongmen. I mean, You got everyone beat.
Well,
But,
I don't. My hair ain't gonna stay around for long.
Nick Camby, he's a good looking dude. He's got a full face, a full head of hair, and like kind of that Gustavo. Is that the dude in? What
are you thinking of?
Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, Gaston.
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 Yes, Gaston.
No one lifts like Gaston.
He used to do a couple buttons and
he has been very clearly a guru of all of his skill. Just a very well-rounded athlete.
I message him a lot too because he's kind of getting to that point where I got, like winning titles and there's nothing really pushing anymore. And he's like, well, do you think I could go to the heavyweight? And I said, dude, absolutely. And if you don't feel comfortable there, you can always jump back. But I said, I guarantee you can push the weight we're pushing because you're already doing it now. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where he gets.
I totally agree. I would love to see Camby jump into the heavyweight fold.
But also with the money that's coming in the 105s, is it worth it?
Things are happening.
Yeah.
Things are happening for them.
That's why I left though. Those opportunities weren't there. Now they're there. So
will you ever go back?
No.
You've had a taste of the.
I've had the taste, and I'm happy where I am.
Maybe Camby might hear those words and take them to heart. Muller Taylor wants to know, what kind of beer are you guys into? And I know neither of us are drinking right now in prep for World's Strongest Man, but we were just talking about how crisp and great that first beer after contest is going to hit. What is Kevin Ferris's first beer he wants to go for after World's Strongest
cold,
Man?
man.
You got to be a little more specific.
It's going to be in an iced mug.
Let's hope we don't have a 119-degree heat wave like we did last year. But what kind of beer?
I like a Belgian wheat.
Belgian wheat?
Mexican beer. I love Pacifico. What I'm on right now, though, is 805, and it's actually made in California, too. So they got their brewery out there. 805 is really good. I grew up freaking Corona, but
there's this Czech-inspired Mexican lager that I really love because my dad's side of the family is Mexican-Hispanic. My mom's side of the family is Czechoslovakian. And so when I saw that there was a Czech-Mexican beer, I was like, hey, this is me in a can. It's called Nido Bandido. Have you ever had it before?
Nido Bandido, no.
Oh, dude, it is such a good one. And I feel like that beer would hit real nicely after that Sacramento sun. So, I mean, a Mexican lager would be something I'd go for.
Dude, I'm not going to complain. I heard Pabst is as a sponsor this year for World's Strongest Man. So, shoot, dude, I'll slam back some Pabst. I don't care.
Papa Bear 84 wants to know, what's your favorite deadlift accessory?
Box squats.
Box squats. To what height?
Just above parallel, I would say about 2 inches above. But really leaning in on how to be explosive out of the box. So I see a lot of people do it wrong. You want to lower yourself down like you're sitting in a seat that you can't see. So you're guiding yourself down and staying tight and staying, you're searching for it. You're not knowing that it's there and dropping into it because you're losing all that strength, all that pressure to come out of the hole. So it's one of those movements where you have to be controlled down. As soon as you touch that box, you're exploding right out of it. So that really, I mean, especially being in 105s, that's my go-to, man. I had a 850-pound deadlift at 805 or at 105s. And that was unheard of back then. Obviously, there's guys that are pushing it now, but that was actually suitless. I've never even attempted suit. So,
when you're doing these box squats, what bar do you prefer to use?
Squat bar works.
Squat bar?
SSB,
you ever prefer to use SB? I was going to ask.
SSB will work that upper and mid back, that strength to keep you tight. But even back then, like we didn't have SSB. I think SSB's kind of been a newer thing in the last few years, so it was always just a normal squat bar.
Interesting question asked by JJW86. What would you be doing if you weren't in strongman?
Ping pong. Table tennis.
Table tennis.
Oh yeah, dude, that was
respectable.
That was my sport, man.
Really?
Yeah. My it got competitive at family events, man. We had a ping pong table all growing up, and I don't know.
I would love to see you play ping pong. Like just your
nasty backs, man.
Your big ass torso quickly reacting to that little ball.
I don't know. I mean, I've talked about it a lot. Getting back into jiu-jitsu, it's getting very competitive out there. Obviously, I'd have to lose a lot of weight, but jiu-jitsu would be fun.
Right on.
Yeah.
The One Onion asks, if you could train with any past strongman in their prime, who would you pick and why?
Mike Jenkins.
Mike Jenkins.
He was a very, very, very good athlete. Someone that a lot of people overlooked, I think. Obviously, he won a Arnold Classic title. Never won a World's title, but someone that's very inspiring, someone that pushed it to the limit, man. He was a very, very strong dude.
Someone I'm really sad that I never got the chance to meet.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and it was very tragic.
But seeing older videos and stuff, things popping up, he was somebody that a lot of people looked up to because of his strength, and also a very humble guy as well.
I would love to train with Derek Poundstone in his prime.
Derek's.
Have you met him?
Yeah, I've met Derek. Yeah, he's a good dude. Really good dude.
I have yet to meet him in person.
I heard a lot of stories about him as well. So,
but definitely someone who just really had this energy about him that I would have loved to tap into when he was still an active competitor. Let's see. So Drew Mangrum wants to know, both of you, what have you done differently this year to prepare for World's Strongest Man? You can keep it short.
Kind of bringing back in my old roots, believing in myself, staying consistent. It might sound a little weird, but I talk myself up too. And I don't have to do it out loud. But when I step up to a bar, I'll whisper, "You can do this. You got this. Let's go." Kind of a pep talk, a little hype talk for myself. And it worked when I was in 105s, and it's still working today. So, yeah.
To answer Drew's question on my behalf, with this year being my first year as a full invite and kind of wanting to pick up some unfinished business after my 2020 debut got cut short, was to understanding and appreciating how it is a build-up. We just talked about this, but not burning myself out before I even get a chance to put my skills to the test, and really appreciating building up to the final package that I'm going to bring. And talking to you has reaffirmed that choice. Talking to Brian in the past has reaffirmed that, but not getting caught up in the noise and understanding, what the
why
real
you're
test.
Really there.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Marcus Siegfried wants to know, is he Batman? Are you Batman?
I'm Superman. Come
on, Marcus. You get your superheroes wrong. He's obviously Superman.
Come on.
No, we were just talking about Canby being Clark Kent, but that's just a facade. A-Monsters, Audrey Rodriguez, one of my athletes that I train back at home. She wants to know, what motivates you when you feel like you've hit a plateau? How do you handle that?
Pushing even harder. You're always going to run into plateaus. You're always going to run into things that aren't feeling right. It's good to know, and it's good to have good coaches to find out certain accessories to do to push through that. It's kind of like that in high school growing up, when I first started getting into the lifting game. It was like, okay, we're getting to the 225. So we always went by plates, 45s. I would get to 225. And then it would be a push to get to the 315. And then it would be a push and push and push to get to the 405, So it was always what can we throw in to help us so we're not just staying consistent or staying monotonous, I guess, just staying in the what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of the doing the same thing over and over and over, because
caught in the rhythms and the routine.
Yeah, you got to find other accessories to kind of push you out of that. So
I think you and I were talking about this also, where it becomes very useful to have, you were talking about how it's useful to have a coach in your corner where you're getting strong across some of the big things, but you weren't aware of how to properly fill in the gaps in certain ways. And I think that's pretty good. But also listening to, I encourage people again to check out the podcast you did with Brian, the Shawstring podcast. But you were talking about how you, even on your worst days, where you're feeling so beat up from work and all the arduous of life, still getting yourself, finding that push to go into the gym, knowing that you can make some efforts to come in better than when you went in. If you can get in and get the work done still, that further sets you apart and further pushes the bar forward. And it's one more way that you can prove to yourself that you are capable of some amazing things. And I've heard you say, like, you've had some of your best days training-wise on days that you didn't want to be there in the gym.
Yeah, I'll always push that because
that's a message that I have to hear sometimes too, because
it is,
we do have those bad days.
I work 10-hour days, 50 hours a week,
and a dad and a husband.
It's finding a routine and sticking with that routine. It doesn't matter how you're feeling. There's days I come home from work and I'm just drained and like I didn't get my meals in. I'm feeling lethargic. I'm feeling just drained. No, we're still going to the gym. Whether we're going to push what's on our programming or not, we're making the effort to get to the gym. You're going to take your pre-workout and you're going to get after it. And really though, like I've had some of the best training sessions and PR'd on days I didn't think that I was going to make it. And
that just adds further fuel and confidence to the fire. And that when I heard you talk about that with Brian on the podcast, it really resonated with me because I needed to hear that.
How do you know it's going to be a good day or not if you don't show up?
That is, I can't refuse those words, man. I mean, it's very clear. Last question, besides one special one I have for you. This is from another one of my athletes that I train, Servando Marroquin. You'll have appreciation for him. He just recently competed at his first Arnold World Championships as a 105, and he got second place on his first. And I'm damn proud of him. But
dude, that's awesome.
He asks, how many calories do you eat during off season compared to leading up to Worlds?
I'm kind of a weird guy because it doesn't matter how much I eat. I don't feel like I can ever gain weight. So I'm probably around 5,000 to 6,000 leading up to bigger shows. But I stay consistent around that same time, even off season, because I'm still putting in the work, you know. So you just got to play it out, see how you feel.
Find your balance.
I mean, obviously, if you're not training as hard, your metabolism is not going to be as strong.
If you had to put a number on it, what would you ballpark it at? What do you got right now, calorie-wise, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm probably around 7-ish, yeah.
Does that change in the off-season? Or stays about the same?
It drops maybe a little bit, but not much, yeah.
How quickly does your weight start to plummet if you let your calories drop below 6?
Dude, I can weigh in at night and be at 285, wake up in the morning and lost 10 pounds. I mean, it's ridiculous, and
I can relate with that. If I don't get at least that 5,500 to 6,000 calories, the weight just starts falling off, and it's a tough reality.
It's a fight, dude. It's a fight.
Eating can be one of the hardest parts about this.
I think it is the hardest part. Lifting is fun. You're eating for a purpose. You know, you're eating to get stronger, to push you through. It's not always fun, and you're not always eating things that you like either.
My last question that I have for you is, it's kind of a special question, and it means a lot to me to ask this question because I recently became a father, and I've been having some difficulties here and there finding balance. As a father, as a husband, as a working man, as a professional athlete, what tips do you have for finding and maintaining balance across your life?
Everything has to have balance. Every being a dad, giving them the time that they deserve, being a husband, giving her uninterrupted time, whether that's date night every week or even just sitting. We've tried, we've been a lot better, but even like around 9 o'clock, putting our phones down and it's time just, with us. And then training, and work doesn't change because it's a scheduled thing. So that's got its own time, but then obviously training has to be done as well. If you don't put the right training in, you're not going to get the right performance as well either. So everything has its time and it all has to have balance. And I know that we kind of talked this over with Brian over his podcast, but everything has to have its balance. Everything has to be not necessarily equal, but consistent as well.
When the going gets tough and when you're having trouble finding that balance, what things do you tell yourself to kind of like reground yourself and like really find that center again? You
got to step back and be in what's really important. Family is most important, because they're the ones that are there for you. They're the ones that are there for you, pushing you through everything. When I got into this sport, it was a hobby, and obviously it's grown, but it's still a hobby. It's not paying all our bills. But family is most important. Those memories are most important. And so that's my main focus. Strongman might be my second and work might be my third, but
that's one thing that I've found is like when the going gets tough is, recalibrating, refining my whys is just grabbing my daughter, looking down at her, and then realizing that everything I do is for this little being that I have in my arms, and that usually is just the most super effective.
It gets you fired up.
It does. It does.
It gets you that extra boost, that energy, and I think her being there this year at Worlds for you, I think it's gonna be it's gonna be a very, very good thing for you. Just having your family there and having your why there.
Even just having my wife and my daughter here this weekend for training. I know this is our first long road trip to come up here, and it's been tough. I know, like every day we've had training, and I said I'm going to be there at a certain point. I wind up getting there like 15 to 30 minutes later, just because we're working around man. Baby. But
I get it.
It's been so powerful just to have my two biggest whys here along with me, because at the end of the day, that's like that lightning rod that just really grounds everything and puts into perspective. But it's
your biggest supporters, your biggest heroes.
Yeah. So. That could not be more true. But brother, thank you for being on this podcast with me. I knew that coming up here, I needed to have you on this thing because you have been such a great person to have met along my journey, and you are a friend that I'm going to have, I know, for the rest of my life. And thanks for having me up here. Thanks for including me on your training, and thank you for this week, brother. It's been amazing.
Absolutely,
I'm so excited.
Anytime. I appreciate it. I appreciate, letting me be on this podcast and, kind of getting out my my journey and, the things that help me, push me. And, training was amazing.
Training was amazing, and let that be a litmus test and kind of like an inclination to how Sacramento is going to be. I'm stoked, man. We've got some epicness on the horizon, that's for sure.
24 days.
24 days
happening,
and counting. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been Titan Talk. I am your host, Gabe Benya. I've been joined by my friend Kevin Ferris, the Lightning, I like to call him, and we are 3 weeks out of World's Strongest Man. Kevin, thanks again, brother.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Tex Titan signing out.